What you're looking at right now is not macOS. This entire desktop is running inside a browser. Every window opens, every app works. You can move things around, change themes, open settings, write notes, even open a full code editor. And no, this isn't a pre-built template. This was generated using AI. Recently, Qwen 3.7 Max started getting a lot of attention. People were talking about its coding performance, its reasoning, its benchmark scores, and whether it can actually compete with the biggest AI coding models available today. On paper, it looks impressive, but there's one problem. Benchmarks don't build products. Anyone can generate numbers. What actually matters is whether a model can take an idea and turn it into something real. So instead of asking it to build another landing page, I decided to give it something much harder. Build an entire desktop operating system experience inside the browser. And not just visually, I wanted this to feel real. So let's begin. So I opened the platform where we can access the model and actually get the best coding experience. The first step was choosing the model. So I selected Qwen 3.7 Max. And then I pasted in the giant prompt. Don't worry, I'll leave the exact full prompt in the description if you want to try it yourself. Now, hit enter. Before generation starts, there's a quick security verification. Complete that, and the model immediately starts building. At this point, all we can do is wait.
2,000 years later.
A few minutes later, the generation finished. And surprisingly, it didn't just generate random code. It created the entire project structure. Real files, organized folders, components, everything editable, which already looked way more promising than I expected. So naturally, there was only one thing left to do. Open the project in another tab and see if this thing actually works. Look, the landing page appears. And honestly, it looks pretty boring, but that's not what we came here for. We're not building another website. We're building an operating system. So let's skip the landing page. Click Launch OS and see if this thing actually becomes something crazy. Look at this. This is actually starting to look insane. The UI feels like a clean and minimal operating system, almost like macOS. You have the dock down here with a bunch of productivity apps. The live clock is running. Animations feel smooth, and honestly, this already looks way better than I expected. But enough looking at the desktop. Let's see if these apps actually work. First, the File Explorer. And yeah, you can immediately see the macOS inspiration here. The design looks super clean. Now, obviously, this isn't real macOS. This is all running inside the browser. Next app, Notepad. And okay, this actually looks pretty good. At first, I thought this was just another fake UI window. But no, you can actually type here. Everything is editable, which honestly surprised me. And yeah, I don't even own a Mac myself. I've only seen macOS in YouTube videos, but somehow this still captures that same feeling really well. Now let's open the code editor. And this is where things start getting interesting. It's obviously not replacing VS Code anytime soon, but for something generated by AI, this is actually impressive. The layout is organized. You can edit files, create code, switch between sections, and overall, it genuinely feels usable. Next, the terminal. Now this one is mostly simulated. It's not a real development terminal, but visually, it still looks convincing enough for the experience. Then, we have the browser app. Again, mostly for demo purposes, not really something you'd use seriously, so we'll skip past that. Next up, the music player. Same story here. The UI exists, but playback isn't fully functional. Now the gallery app? This one actually surprised me. Because you can upload images they save correctly, and you can even zoom in and out, which is honestly pretty cool for a browser-based OS generated like this. Calculator fully working, no issues there. Then, the App Store. Most of these are demo applications, but the entire idea of having an app store inside this fake operating system is honestly crazy. Now, let's open settings. At first, the dark mode, light mode, and auto theme options didn't really work properly. But then, look at this. The actual OS themes below, those work. And they work surprisingly well. There are multiple themes here, and every single one changes the entire desktop experience. Honestly, this part shocked me. Then below that, wallpapers. And I expected maybe one wallpaper to function, but no, all of them work. Every single wallpaper switches correctly, animations included. And this is the moment where I genuinely started realizing, okay, Qwen might actually deserve those benchmark scores. Then we have accent colors. Those work too. Display settings brightness adjustment with smooth animations. Even the dock is customizable, which is honestly insane for a generated project like this. Then sound controls volume increase and decrease also functional. At this point, I genuinely didn't expect this model to perform this well, especially on something this large. But somehow Qwen 3.7 Max actually pulled it off. And honestly, I can see why people are starting to compare this model against some of the biggest AI coding models available right now. So, after testing all of this, what do I actually think? Honestly, I came into this expecting a cool demo, maybe a decent landing page, maybe a few working windows. But I definitely didn't expect this. For a single prompt, this is kind of insane. The UI feels polished, the desktop experience feels surprisingly smooth, themes work, settings mostly work, multiple apps actually function, and the overall structure feels way more organized than I expected. Now, obviously, this isn't replacing real operating systems, and it's definitely not replacing professional tools yet. Some apps are still demos, some features still need polish. And there are places where you can tell this was AI generated. But that's not the point. The point is, this was built in minutes. And for that, I'm genuinely impressed. So if I had to rate Qwen 3.7 Max for this challenge, overall I'd give it an 8.8 out of 10. And honestly, I finally understand why people have been talking about this model lately. This was only round 1. Next time, same prompt, different model, and we'll find out who actually wins. If you made it this far, hit subscribe. Leave a like. It really helps these videos reach more people. And comment the next model challenge. See you in the next one.